Fission radio show with your host, Lonnie Clark. We stand together and accept that we now live in a world transformed by Fukushima. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here on UCY.TV radio. We relentlessly engage every ear that listens. We expose and confront the complete lack of accountability for the nuclear industry. Consider social engineering programs who view our bodies, minds, and souls as assets on a balance sheet. We discuss vital current issues, interview activists, and engage our audience in an effort to allow all voices to be heard. The Age of Fission radio show creates a venue that all will choose. We encourage our listeners to reclaim their power and their courage to take action and save our planet from the ravages of greed and indifference. Our actions matter. Every voice matters. We remind our listeners that happiness is resistance. Love is greater than fear.
Good morning, UCY.TV radio listeners. This is Lonnie Clark with the Age of Fission radio show. Today, I cannot believe it is June 24th, 2016. We are more than halfway through the year. And as my daughter would laugh at me, Christmas is only 6 months away. So yeah, I saw a comment the other day that said this is the people's radio. And yes, it is, actually. And if that means this is where we come to get real information, thank God for this station. That's what I say. And you can always contribute to UCY.TV. Go to our website and hit the donate button. Any donations do help. I know that the producer of our show never really does ask, Jill. If you do not watch her show or listen to her show, I say watch because I listen to it while I work. The information we're getting on this station is changing. It's about how our lives are changing right underneath our noses, and we don't even see it. The big news this week is how the United States economy is going to collapse if the UK leaves the European Union. Right, just like they said Japan was going to have rolling blackouts when they turned off all the nuclear power plants. So we know all of that is just laying the groundwork for more death and destruction that they have planned on us. The military-industrial complex is literally running the show, and how are we going to take it back? Is even Bernie Sanders talking about cutting down the military in our country? I don't think so. I think when you do that, that's like. So anyways, today is Call-In Friday. Let me give you the phone number if anyone wants to call in. The phone number is 718-717-8296. It has been a busy week. I actually had a lot of fun, co-hosting on Primetime with Michael, and it was really great to have a different point of view and to actually hear someone who thinks I might be a little bit off with. So he did say, "You're completely wrong" at the end. So I think that's where we need to start, is the right and wrong. This week, as you guys have been hearing, I am writing letters to, now it's a lot of people, the three organizations, Sierra Club, NDRC, and EDF, I think it's called, and asking for their contributors, and also to 350.org, a couple of other organizations that I have thought was extremely important that we get engaged with. So I got a call from the NDRC Because I actually not only wrote these letters, when I read that article in the Wall Street Journal that said that they were going to help Illinois keep open their 2 decrepit nuclear power plants, I about split a gut. Sierra Club called me up and right away and said, oh, no, 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 you don't understand. That gross misrepresentation. This individual from the NDRC in New York, National Resource Defense Fund, they said, well, we're working with legislators. We've been trying to close down coal plants, and we're working with legislators on the time frame because, these things don't close down immediately. That's the thing. It's not an immediate close. So it's like, when do you do it, this month or 6 months? And he said to me, well, let's agree to disagree. And I'm like, I don't agree to disagree. I disagree. These nuclear power plants need to be shut down immediately. You guys don't get it. This is not, I'd love to talk to them about it. And so I am going to engage them. And I don't know if they'll want to come on the show after I read out who their contributors are, but I would like to talk to them about their contributors and see why is it that 5 years later that organization can honestly say nothing about Fukushima. Their mission statement is to save all life sources. They have hundreds of millions of dollars, which means they have a lot of influence. They're hobnobbing with people and organizations that can give them $11 million at a pop. Really? Wonder what kind of friends they have. They get a contribution for $11 million. I can't wait to find out who did that. Honestly, I think that will speak volumes. The phone number this morning is 718-717-8296. This is the weird thing about our radio station. We don't know who's out there, who's listening, but we certainly love to engage you, so please do give us a call. I do want to talk to you about this Brexit thing because I think, in my view, it is an excuse for them to say, oh, because Britain left the EU, now our economy is going to tank and they're going to pull the plug on a bunch of stuff. And actually, we're about to hit the wall anyways with what they've been playing with in our government and how they've been doing it. It's an outrage that we say we have increased job growth. Right. We have a bunch of minimum wage jobs. This is the Bush plan. The Obama plan is really the Bush plan. And I know I talk a lot of politics. In fact, I spent a lot of time talking politics with Michael the other day, asking him what's his objection. I ran into a woman yesterday who says, I don't want to pay for everybody's education. Really? I do. The problem with our country is we have a bunch of illiterate, uneducated people in this country who believe anything. They see it on television and they think it's real. Oh, Bernie, he's just a fruitcake. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, fucking Trump has bankrupted everything he touches because he doesn't have an education that he should have. He messed around in college. He was just a frat kid, a spoiled brat frat kid. That's the guy we want to have running our country, like Bush. It's the Bush plan. Let's stick with the Bush plan. Military, murder, death, kill. Who cares? Squash people. Treat them like they're ants. Nobody matters. Kill every social program, for God's sakes, because those people need to die anyways, right? Honestly, who are we becoming, or who have we become? That's the question in this country. In Eugene, there was a story this week that said it's kind of funny. The city of Eugene is trying to get, I think, the Trump campaign or the Secret Service to pay. It cost the city of Eugene $75,000 for the Trump event here in town. You know why? Because they were super freaked out. They were like, oh, we're going to have riots. People are going to be beating each other up. And it went along. Look, we know who supports Trump, it's not even who supports Clinton. Nobody supports Clinton. The only people who support Clinton are those like, okay, we're going to have a woman. Okay, they stole it from Bernie. We're going to have to take Clinton. She has no qualifications. Her qualifications is she's a monster. That's her qualification. Laughed on camera. Oh, we went, we killed, we got. Ha, ha, ha. So fuck her. Excuse my language, but I am up to here with this telling us what we're going to do. I get it too. I've had people say, they're going to come get you first. Really? Please do. It's like I wrote Bill Frist when he was the Senate. He was the head of the Senate when I first got actively engaged, man. I actually got investigated by the Capitol Police because I think we needed to demand impeachment of those guys. They needed to be in jail for the crimes. They still need to be in jail. Cheney, Bush, Lou, uh, Condoleezza Rice, criminals. Why do you think Gaddafi idolized her? Do you know that, not Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein had a whole, wasn't it pictures and pictures of books of Condoleezza Rice? It was either Gaddafi or Saddam Hussein. If you guys want to call in and correct me, you can. The number is 718-717-8296. But it's one of those two guys that we killed, who were our friends that then we killed, we villainized and killed. When they went and rummaged through his stuff, I believe it was Saddam Hussein, pictures and pictures. He had a whole book of Condoleezza Rice. He was like, had a mad crush on her. So these people are criminals, and they need to be in jail, and I have not forgotten. We have a whole set of men and women who have gone to Iraq and Afghanistan who haven't even seen the worst of their disabilities because they have been exposed to depleted uranium weapons, which means 10, 20, 30 years from now, probably 10 to 15, that's when it mostly starts to present. At 20 years is almost 100%. And they'll get some odd leukemia or some weird cancer, or something will happen with their breathing apparatus, their lungs. I mean, this is what happens. We cannot ignore the crimes that are going on right underneath our feet. Dane Wigington, heralds the call every week about the geoengineering. And that's, deaf ears, crickets, and not just from the government officials. It's like the EPA. Did you see that this morning on Gina McCarthy's Facebook page? Oh, President Obama signed in something that said that we can actually now have the EPA has greater regulation, like, oh, now they could go in and fix Flint. Really? Okay, let's see how long it takes them to fix the water in Flint. And while you're at it, let's fix the water in St. Louis. And let's fix the water all up and down the Midwest, where all those nuclear power plants. What about in New York? You think you're going to fix the tritiated water in New York? Hell, no, you're not, unless there's some scientific discovery that they're not telling us about. I mean, that's really the issue. And the NDRC is in New York. Do you know what kind of statement that would make if they relocated and said, we cannot stay in New York City because of Indian Point? They have been in Indian Point, next to Indian Point, leaking for how long? It's operating illegally with minimal passage. I mean, the NRC is giving it a nod and a shake, allowing it to be open, scraping for reasons not to shut it down. And the NDRC is like right there in New York. I'm sorry, folks. I can't help but talk about this organization. Like, they are, isn't that the one where the guy has his salary at $500,000 a year? $500,000. How much water would that give to the people of Westlake? Do you have to really live in those penthouses in New York? Really? You can't live on $200,000 a year. You have to have $500,000. $200,000 makes you feel too poor. Must be rough. That's what I'd say. Really rough. Yeah, that's a little bit of the bourgeois judgmentalism going on. But if you're having a nonprofit bringing in $100 million a year, I still think it's unreasonable. It's a nonprofit. It is a nonprofit. A nonprofit means not for profit. $500,000 a year sounds excessive. It's my opinion. And I wrote the same thing to Joyce Meyer, to be honest. That's why I stopped contributing to the Joyce Meyer ministry in 2004 when I actually read their financial statement. Really. She gets $500,000 a year as a minister. And she makes more than that on the sale of her books. So her gross salary is about $1 million a year. You get $500,000 a year. To fly around in jets, you need your private jet so you can talk to God, I guess. This is what is wrong with our planet, folks. People are not having honest conversations. These environmental egos, they're not environmental activists. They're environmental egos. They're like, oh yeah, we care about the coal, the methane. Yeah, we want to close down. While we're ignoring Fukushima and the death of the Pacific Ocean. Okay, here we go. The Brexit. Let's don't talk about the Brexit because you know what? The Brexit, we're going to get beat up with the Brexit. I guarantee it. That's going to be a tool. And I thought, this is the interesting thing. Like that guy Cameron, he quit. He's like, wah, I need to quit because you guys don't believe in me. Thank God. That's the value of their system. The guy gets to quit and they don't have to suffer him. But I wonder who else they're going to bring in. Mass animal deaths. Let's talk about this instead of Brexit because this is what matters. This is what really matters on our planet. Updated list of mass animal deaths for 2016. Kyrgyzstan. Oh, wow. 300 sheep dead due to lightning. So that means the lightning just dink. 120,000 birds. In Oklahoma, in America. Hundreds of dead fish. 60 tons. Tens of thousands of fish have died in Santa Lucia in Peru in a lake. Tens of thousands. That's June 14th. That's when that was. And we're supposed to, like, the economy is dying off. I mean, I don't understand how anybody in this country, cannot not vote. I had a lady yapping in my face yesterday about she doesn't want to educate anybody. She doesn't want to pay for people's health care. She objects to that because it's the little people who are going to have to pay. That's not how it works in this country. If you guys get socialized medicine, it's going to be on the backs of the people and the little people in this country. No, it's not. It's on the backs of the little people right now because we let it be that way. Because we're keeping you guys in Kentucky keep voting in Mitch McConnell. We keep voting in Ron Wyden in Oregon. We keep voting in Patty Murray. And you know what? If some of these people would stand up and they start getting knocked off like they did Paul Wellstone. Paul Wellstone was a senator who got killed. He did get killed. He refused to sit down and shut up. The Bush administration had him wiped out. He was determined to get to the bottom of 9/11. And he did. And he and his wife and his children were all blown up in an airplane when they got the information on their way back from Florida. That's the country we live in. So is anybody shocked that, our government is so afraid? Like the police department in Eugene, Oregon, they paid overtime, mega overtime, because they were afraid that people were going to get in fights. You know what that speaks to? This speaks to really the fear base. The government is afraid. The government has the fear. People that support Trump, people that support Sanders, frankly, they can talk about things without fighting. And the racism that Trump has intentionally stirred up is intentional, folks. It's to push people who might have thought he was a good guy to Hillary Clinton, period. It's so obvious. He was shooting himself in the foot. That's what he even said, that I could murder somebody on Times Square and I'd still have people voting for me. Really, he really said something like that. And you know what? It's probably true because the people are sick to death with insiders. That's what Michael said about Bernie Sanders. He didn't like Bernie Sanders because he's an insider. That's, I think, his biggest objection. He's an insider. Well, so is Trump. If you think Trump is not an insider, wrong. I think that Sanders is less of an insider because he's been an independent all these years. He has not sat inside the caucuses of either Republicans or the Democrats, whereas Trump has actually sat in on the caucuses. He takes the people who sit in on the caucus to dinner and tells them what to talk about. Trump's been the one to pay for the big expensive dinners and move the agenda along in the way that he wants to have it. And, I mean, do you think if Trump had wanted to stop and frisk or, stop and frisk in New York City, that he could not have moved mountains and made that end? No, he didn't care. That's what this whole racism thing is about. What's he saying now? We need to eliminate this. In fact, this lady said this to me yesterday. Islam is the threat. Islam is not the threat. Islam's been around for a long time, just like the Christian religion's been around for a long time. If you ask me, and I heard this show with Sean, actually. Sean had this guy proving that there is a God and using the Bible. Well, all of that only holds true if you believe the Bible is a real book, a real divination, and really, read Sacred Contracts by Carolyn Meese. It explains how this happens in the human condition. This is why the Christian Bible has the same 7 rituals that they did in Egyptian times. It's part of the human condition. Now, there's some people out there that say that we are from aliens, we're an alien race or an alien seed, and then we're there. Well, if we're that kind of an alien race or an alien seed, I wish they'd get down here to help us, because really, they're bad parents or bad scientists. I mean, really, maybe they are. Maybe that's really the interesting thing. Maybe they're just such horrible scientists. I mean, I will tell you what, when I got engaged with this Fukushima event and I started watching the TEPCO video feeds, I went back and watched them all. You know what I saw on 324? Literally. And it had it on there and it's been scrubbed from the website. I saw some type of a vehicle go beam itself down into number 3, and that is not a made up story. I was not drunk, was not high. I had it on my video feed. I showed it to my friend Ed Oz. A lot of people saw it, and it has been summarily scrubbed. So I don't believe that it's a secret that there is alien life force that has come and gone on this planet. So I'd like to know where the hell they are right now, because really we're in pretty dire need. It's like I told the guy from the NDRC, we're super screwed. He kind of giggled when I said that. Yeah, I get that. We're all super screwed because really the coal, it is urgent that we shut down the coal. And the way they do the coal mining is just outrageous. They're raping our planet. And it is causing the methane. 8 gigatons, hundreds of tons of gigatons, mega gigatons underneath of methane, underneath our Earth's core that's bubbling up. What do you think Bayou Corn's about? That's methane gas escaping. And the only way they've kept it from blowing up is they have drilled deep. They had to actually make poles long enough to get to the bottom of that place because they couldn't reach the bottom. Their instruments, their tools were not long enough. That was part of the delay in getting that resolved, in stopping it. But it is still sinking. That area is still bubbling gas because it's like it's being suctioned out. I mean, that's a disaster. The whole methane thing is a disaster. And then they're combining it with the geoengineering. And then we now have, east of the Mississippi, we are one radiated environment, east of 100%. With all of the nuclear power plants putting out 1,000 Hiroshima bombs. Each container, what did Donna Gilmore say? Each container contains 1,000 Chernobyls and cesium-137, and we're storing them in containers that are a half an inch thick. And Dave Lochbaum, the so-called expert from the Union of Concerned Scientists, who I ought to reach out to and ask him if he'd interview with me here, and we can discuss this mano a mano here, face to face, or cara a cara, I guess I said. Mano a mano, punch him out. I don't want to mano him. But really, I'd like to ask him straight up, why does he think that a terrorist attack is a greater threat? Really? A terrorist attack? Well, we do know why, because they don't even protect any of the nuclear spent fuel. It would be really easy. And they do know that. But you know what? Even this speaks to why there's no terrorist attacks on our nuclear power plants. There are no terrorists. That's the CIA. It's their little stupid secret ops to start the wars. They do it just enough to get people going and say, yeah, we're going to give up our rights. And yeah, we're going to come into your house. Look what they're doing in Europe. They're shaking people down hard now. That guy in Florida, if he was actually involved in it, I guarantee you he was instigated. And I mean, what are they saying now? Oh, he was talking to another person who was an inside deal. Probably a CIA informant who probably radicalized the guy. They probably had his finger on him for a long time. And by the way, how did that footage of that character happen at the gate where he was like, oh yeah, all they care about is the money? Why didn't we see that years ago on a YouTube channel? How is it that it just popped up now? And this lady yesterday said she doesn't want to pay for people's education. We need critical thinking in this country, and the way that comes is when we educate and sharpen our minds. So the number this morning to give us a call, unless you guys want to listen to me just yap on, because I got plenty to say. You know me. Anybody who listens to my radio show knows I'm pretty opinionated and really passionate about it. The phone number is 718-717-8296. You are listening to the Age of Fission radio show with Lonnie Clark. This is Call-In Friday. Our show is on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. On Mondays, I interview people or talk about the issues of what's going on in St. Louis, Missouri, because St. Louis is the heart of our country. It's at the mouth of the Mississippi. It is where they our government illegally buried 200 tons of the highest grade uranium, secretly buried it, illegally sold it to Mallinckrodt, and it took, I think, 15 years. I have been told by the women of Coldwater Creek, as we've heard on this radio station, they just finished it. They spent 20 years moving the contaminated uranium. Now they're dealing with the tailings in Coldwater Creek, the leftover stuff, and the environment that has not been remediated. Yeah, they moved the waste there, but every time it flooded, that uranium spread all over the place, and people living right next door to it are critically and mortally sick. And our government is doing nothing. They're like wringing their hands and, twisting around because they don't want to admit that they caused the problem, because then they're going to open themselves up for a bunch of litigation. And the government says, no, their lawyers are like, no, we can't do that. So let's just push them off, and wait for these people to die. Who cares? Once they're dead, they're dead. That's the great thing about the uranium poisoning. People die from it. And you know what? Your statute of limitations goes away after 3 to 5 years, depending on the case. And bada bing. Just push it off, delay, and we can save money. And who cares who dies? We still continue to make money. Mallinckrodt gets how many billions of dollars from our government every year? Billions. The nuclear industry gets billions, not just millions, folks. I mean, we're talking a heavy investment in nuclear, and guess what? We never talk about the human cost. There are people dying in St. Louis today, right now. There are people sitting in a hospital holding their daughter or their son's hand, and I'm talking young people. How our country can forget that is beyond me. And I am not going to forget it. And yes, there's a lot of resistance from the people in St. Louis to come on this radio show and talk. A, some of them are in litigation. B, other of them don't want the headache, because I ask straightforward questions like, why aren't you guys moving? Like, I don't get it. If it was me, I would abandon St. Louis. That's what I think they ought to do, but they want to dig in their heels and fight for it. I get that. It's admirable. I really understand that, but it's not just, this is where it gets into the whole thing in St. Louis. It's not just the nuclear stuff. It's the fuse wrap. It's a toxic waste. Our country, it's not just the nuclear industry either. Like as Dane Wigington says, the geoengineering and nuclear are at the top of the list, but for goodness sakes, we've got a long ladder to climb here, folks. As we can see, our people are diabetic. Diabetes is it's the first thing you get when you're exposed to low-level radiation, is diabetes. That's why diabetes is on the increase in Japan, because they're all exposed to higher levels of radiation. And it's going to continue. So our people have diabetes. Our mental processes are slower. Things are slower, and we have the Wigner effect. Airplanes, things are breaking. Electrical systems are breaking down. We cannot ignore these systems. So on my show on Monday, I talk about St. Louis. On Wednesdays, I interview activists. Next week, I'm going to be interviewing Dana Durnford, who is a citizen journalist who has done his duty beyond call. And he basically, what do you call that, crowdfunded enough money to get like a little boat, went up and down the coast, took underwater pictures by himself and his dog, and he's handicapped. He lost his wheelchair, went overboard. That was an event. I mean, honestly. And he continued, and so he walked on these walking sticks and continued the journey. I think he was out on the water 8.5, almost 9 months, taking pictures of someone donated a camera so he could take underwater pictures. And he was looking at the difference in the life on the coast. He used to be a diver. He had tons and tons and tons of pictures of how beautiful it was up there on the coast of Canada, the west coast. And now it is just barren rock. It's sad. And the denial, the nuclear denial. And now he's going through a legal challenge himself in Canada because he lost his temper on a video. told somebody he wanted to, beat you up or something like that. And in Canada, I guess that's illegal. You can't tell someone not only that you hate them, but that you want to strangle them. Like that's, I guess that's considered assault if you just say it in Canada. So be careful. Honestly, I don't want to go to Canada. Canada is the uranium. A lot of the St. Louis uranium came from Canada. A lot of people think it came from Africa, but it did come from Canada. So no thanks, Queenie. I personally am against the whole royalty thing. I think we need to stop that whole entire. As an American, I think that's what the American Revolution was about. Thank you, but no. Only now we've created our own royalty to the point now where we've got Hillary Clinton thinking that she's going to ascend to the throne no matter what, and she's entitled to it. No matter who she murders, politically or otherwise. Honestly. The only way we're going to take that back, I guess our pitchforks are going to be with our votes if we decide we're going to have. I think that what we ought to do is do the color-based voting. Like you go into the booth, if you want one candidate, you put a different color on your finger and you come out and you show somebody the color on your finger. It's like full disclosure voting instead of secret ballot voting. Maybe we should do that. The phone number is 718-717-8296. I'm going to keep talking about the mass animal deaths. This is something that if anybody listening to the sound of my voice thinks that we can live in a world where we have mass animal deaths, I mean masses, thousands. We're in June, 48,000, thousands of dead tuna, 6 tons of fish in Vietnam on June. One day, 6 tons of dead fish in a lake in Hanoi, Vietnam. 6 tons, one day. How long can the planet sustain this? 90 tons of fish die in West Java, Indonesia. 90 tons. So, when people talk about the New World Order is not coming. It's here. It's here, and it is that lady that I spoke to in this office, this medical office yesterday. Her eyes were blink, 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 Sarah Palinite, and talking to me about how she does not want to pay for everybody's education. And, oh, you socialists, you're going to take us down the road of death and destruction. Look what's happening in Canada. Look what's happening. And you know what's happening is they are privatizing everything in these countries. That's why their systems are dead. Because they're privatizing it. You cannot let the oligarchs run the show, because if you leave it up to a few rich people, they don't care. They just as soon see us dead. They don't, as we see in St. Louis, they honestly do not care how many people. Those poor women in St. Louis, they got 20,000 signatures, 23,000 signatures. People have gone to the governor's office. Do you think the governor of St. Louis, of Missouri cares? Any governors, this has been going on for 30 years. Do you think any of them care enough to be willing to stick their necks out? Obviously not. Call up the St. Louis hospitals. Ask how many children are in the hospital right now. Way too many. Proportionally, way too many. And yet, our media is ignoring it. We have a nuclear bomb going off in St. Louis every day. Our own Fukushima, that thing is on fire. And yes, people can close their windows and shut their doors and keep most of it out. So Fridays is Call-In Friday. Wednesday I interview activists. Friday is Call-In Fridays, and that's today. So the number is, let me give it to you again, 718-717-8296. And you're listening to Lonnie Clark with the Age of Fission radio show on UCY.TV radio. And thank you for joining us, and thank you for listening to us, because this is one of the few places where you're going to actually get real information about the things that matter. I mean, unless you want to talk about Brexit a little bit more. I mean, I personally think that we've had enough. I don't know. I feel very battered. I mean, they are they are definitely battering us for sure. I mean, the headlines in the United States: UK Brexit vote triggers global financial political havoc. Wow. So we're going to see what kind of havoc they're going to lay down on us, isn't it? So, you know, they can't control the masses. This is the thing. They can cause as much pain as they want. They can build. I personally think this whole thing about the weapons and we need guns and all this stuff, like Michael was telling me on his show, that I need to at least go get a gun and just feel comfortable. I mean, I get that, but I kind of don't get that. I actually think that we need to go the opposite direction and just read. You know what Einstein said? If nobody pulled the trigger, we wouldn't have war. And what we need is the courage to not kill each other. It's easy to kill people. It's easy to get angry. That's the thing. It's like this lady saying, I don't want to pay for everybody's education. Really? I mean, we're not willing to increase Wall Street's taxes on their big stock sales by 2%. They cannot pay an extra 2% to educate our students. I mean, the amount of money that they are making, the billions. I mean, for goodness sakes, some organization gave the NDRC $11 million. And that organization is still sitting itself in New York City, less than 50 miles away from the Indian Point nuclear power facility that is decrepit and leaking tritium into the water supply of New York City, of which that organization is sitting right there. And they are doing nothing. Someone gave them $11 million. Do I believe that's disconnected? No. They're going to have to argue that point with me. And I am going to look into the legislation that they're working on in Illinois to see what they're doing, exactly how they're working it. Now, this is where you get into being an investigative reporter on this. As a person, I'm just an individual. I'm not really a reporter. This is why, like, my work is just so slow, because I have a job. I have a real day job, a real job where I help people out with my real work. And I go to school. So I am writing these letters on the radio show, but you know what? Every person listening to this radio show can do exactly the same thing. And we need everybody to get active in some way. We cannot continue like this. It is an outrage. Okay, let's listen to this. First thing in, you notice that there's been nothing about Bernie Sanders, even though he's quietly winning all the superdelegates. This is the weird part. Bernie Sanders has won a lot of the delegates in California. He might even be close enough to beat her in the convention. But the presumptive nominee is the Wall Street woman. That's what I'm going to call her, the Wall Street woman. Wow. EU flux shows need for experienced leadership in the U.S. That's what Hillary Clinton says. She's experienced? Like we want her dumbass husband running the show? Hell no. I honestly cannot handle what we're doing to our country, you guys. And the Diablo Canyon. Let's not forget Diablo Canyon deal. Ooh, the big news this week. Diablo Canyon is going to close in 2025. That's not a deal. That's like me doing an offer in compromise with my clients who owe $25,000 and offering the IRS $20,000. That's not a deal. 2025 is waiting for an earthquake. A deal would be we're closing it down by 2019. Takes 2 to 3 years to plan on closing it down. Let's close it down. Closing 2019, this is 2017. That gives them 2 years to figure it out. That's a deal. But adding on another 7, 8 years is waiting for an earthquake, folks. It's like this idiocy about keeping the Columbia generating station open. It's outrageous. It's an outrageous deal. And for us to have to water down our legislation to get it through any city council, and the idea that nuclear is good, I get people saying, well, you just don't know what you're talking about. Oh, yes, I do. I know exactly what happens is these people don't know what they're talking about. The nuclear priesthood is like smoking something, and it's death. They're smoking death. It's an outrage that we have to even listen to it. Check out the oncology rates in your area. That'll tell you. The phone number is 718-717-8296. This is Lonnie Clark with the Age of Fission radio show. This is Call-In Friday, or as I should probably call it something else now since it's mostly me talking. But I still like the Call-In Friday idea. I'm not going to give up on it. I'm just going to keep waiting for our audience base so that we have, share this show with your friends. Share this radio station with your friends. Encourage people to find it. I know even the people that I've interviewed, they call me up afterwards and say, where is that radio show? How do I get it? I'm like, really? You're going to be on a radio show and you don't know how to even hear your own podcast? Now, that's kind of the laziness that we have to deal with when we're dealing with issues that are so gigantic. People have to unplug on other things. That's all it is. It's not that personal. It's not that they don't care. It's just one more thing. It's not like we can just turn on the radio. Hold on just one second. See if I can successfully do this time. Good morning. You're on there with Lonnie Clark in the Age of Fission radio show.
Good morning, Lonnie. This is Candace in Ohio.
Hi, Candace. Good to hear your voice. Thanks for calling.
Well, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that, what you started talking about, Bernie Sanders.
Okay.
Okay. Do you know, I seen the report the other day that they're calling for crisis actors in his hometown the same week that the DNC is going to happen.
I'm sure Clinton has got that all funded and down. I think she has paid for the Trump protesters too.
I believe so too.
I think that she's done all of that. I think that this is the dirtiest campaign that we've ever seen. And I think that, I did see that, and I believe it 100%. And I think and now that the Brexit is happening, they're going to really, this is the thing, if people in America decide, like, okay, let's say we either decide that we're not voting Clinton, so either it will be either Bernie or Trump. Let's say either one of those guys go, they're crashing the economy because they are not going to take it. They're not going to allow us to have a vote. Period.
Well, what I'm concerned with, Lonnie, is all the false flags and the hoaxes that are going on and causing the American people to be in fear constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're advertising on Craigslist for crisis actors that come from another country.
I know. They're getting really sloppy, but that just tells you how much they don't care. That's the thing.
Well, I think it should be out there in the open. That's why I'm calling you and telling you about it.
Well, I'm glad, but you know what? When you talk to other people about this, when I have shared that information, when I first saw it, they're like, "Oh, I don't believe that at all. That's just you're just."
Well, I think that everybody should be. Why not be aware of it in case it happens? If we can catch them, planning it first.
This is the point, though, Candace. They don't care if we know they're doing it. They don't, because the masses of the people. Have you ever read Brave New World? Maybe I should read Brave New World on my YouTube channel. Brave New World is about the whole civilization is completely brainwashed so that anybody who speaks the truth is considered a complete lunatic.
Kind of like 1984.
Yes, it's the same genre. 1984 is a lot more violent. Brave New World is more about, it talks about more of the relationship thing of how do people get into it. And it's really, it's a weird, maybe I should read it because that's what, they use these books as study guides. Which is weird. You know what I mean? They were novels, and they're like, you know why? Because they got stupid people running the show, like their same stories. These stupid false flags, like the whole thing, like, I can see them with their little brimmed hats sitting at the typewriter. Oh, I'm going to write this story and we're going to act it out. I mean, like, they're just dense.
I think that they have used the Book of Revelations in the Bible as their blueprint to go by, and if the prophecy of Armageddon doesn't come true, they're going to make it.
That's exactly right. That's exactly.
I mean, yeah.
But you know how easy it is to make money off of that? This is the thing. Yeah. It's a win, 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 win. I mean, let's think about this. The nuclear pollution east of the Mississippi is so off the charts. Nobody's keeping track of the oncology rates, the diabetes. We have a diabetes epidemic in this country, not from. Sure, the sugar came in, but you can eliminate the sugar, which people have done. They still get diabetes. It's from radiation, and no one ever talks about that. Helen Caldicott talks about this. Doctors will talk about it. They will say the first thing that happens when you are regularly exposed to radiation of low level enough to not give you cancer, you will get diabetes first. And if you continue to get radiation, it's cumulative. So after 20 years of cumulative low level radiation, your system breaks down, you get cancer. This is how
I think that there is something that we can do, and I want to say this for your listening audiences. That PubMed.gov, you know that channel on the internet, PubMed.com.
I never.
Or .gov. Well, they do a lot of research on different medical things, you know.
Uh-huh.
And they have done studies on selenium, which is a supplement, which is a micronutrient.
Uh-huh.
And if people would just type in selenium in that PubMed.gov and look at all the good results that it has. And then there's another product of some kind of nutrient that's called fucoidin. And that is listed in there too. And that cuts off the blood supply to the cancer cells.
What's the name of it?
Fucoidin.
How do you spell that?
Fucodan.
Fucoidin.
Or Coidan.
Yeah. Fucoidan. Yeah, it popped up. I went to the website. Dietary fucoidinodules, the gut microbiota in mice by increasing the abundance of lactobacillus. So it helps your gut produce lactobacillus. It helps your gut produce healthy bacteria.
The end result is that it blocks the blood supply to the cancer cells.
Wow.
I told you, this is the year of, what did you say? Solutions.
Solutions. Well, that is the interesting thing. We do have solutions. There are solutions. There's things, but it's like me. People don't believe me, but I was very sick when I was 37 years old. I had very severe arthritis. My hands were swollen. I couldn't lift my arms up above my head. I had big blotches. I had horrible female problems. And all of it went away through natural healing, through correcting my diet. I got body therapy. I did flower therapy. Flower therapy helped. I did herbs and nutritional supplements. And, Dr. Bob wanted me to change my diet, but every time there was a Carl's Jr. right around the corner from his office, really, no.
Yeah, I haven't been able to eat any wheat, barley, rye, or oats for 3 years. I found out that was the biggest problem in my system.
I have eliminated wheat. Wheat, really, I notice a huge difference. That's the point here, folks, listening, is pay attention to your own body. Find out what works. If you get negative results after you're eating, it's like going out for a walk. You should feel invigorated when you're going for a walk. A lot of people don't. It's not, and a lot of times it's not just that you're breathing in toxic air. I've actually thought about this. Maybe I'll go for a walk with my gas mask on and see if there would be a difference.
I loved your little video with you in your gas suit.
Oh, Lord, we were scared in that video. You could tell we were frightened.
Mm-hmm.
It was really, as soon as you come into that community, they know who drives through. They know what you're doing. It's really it's almost like the Stepford town. You know what I mean? Yes, I've never been in any kind of an environment where they knew exactly who we were. We were I mean, and as soon as we got there, I mean, it was really not comfortable. I mean, we were out in the middle.
You could tell that they were watching you, huh?
Oh, the police officer let us know. He moved his car from here to there and was getting closer. We decided to take off. That's why we
I wonder if they were. I wonder if they were taking pictures of you guys in your white suits.
Probably, no doubt. We were completely photographed, no doubt. But you know what? Actually, we should be finding out. It takes about 6 weeks. We should be finding out about the dirt results. I did get some dirt, and I sent it to Mark Casabier, and he should be able to tell us relatively soon. So he's testing it. He has a way to test it to figure out and their markers of where the radiation comes from. So that's part of the work that radcast.org does with Mimi Gurman's page.
Is there anyone that you know that will check? This is a completely different subject, but the smart meters on the houses. Do you know anyone that has a machine or knows what kind of machine to check the counts of the beats of the radiation coming off of that?
No, but I have heard that if you have a smart meter, do not have it anywhere near your room, your bedroom. Like, keep it away from your room completely. That's the thing.
You don't want to sleep.
Yeah.
You don't want to sleep with your head at where the machine is.
Or near that wall. I think it has to be a certain amount, but I've heard that they're really, really bad. I mean, that's one of the things. I know that where I live, they don't have a smart meter. My landlord said no. So you want to see smart meter testing?
Yes.
Testing machines. Let me Google that and just see. This is where we like. Oh, okay. So I guess they sell these machines, but it doesn't say that you can get it. And the Obama administration has put out a fact sheet to make us feel better. So wow.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't that make you feel better?
Propaganda.
Well, it's funny because people actually really believe it, but they believe a lot of different things. Like, this is the thing that goes along with even paying attention to the whole political machine is really it's about supporting the industrial military complex, period. That's it. And the Queen. So I don't know. I think we have to take individual action. As far as our health is concerned, we have to quit putting the bad stuff in. Less of the bad stuff, more of the good stuff. That's right. And exercise. Our bodies are meant to move. We cannot not. Even a 30-minute walk every single day is better. And it's not enough to just say, oh, I walk to the store and I go from my car. You have to give yourself 30 minutes of self-time. It's very important. Mm-hmm. I think that's a very important thing that people miss out on. Because it's just for your mental well-being. 30 minutes a day is not that hard to give to yourself. So I think that's a really important factor. And in eating right and eliminating negative foods and adding good supplements when you can.
Well, when I started on that diet, where I was cutting the wheat out, I was also blind. And it was real hard to see the ingredients on the packages to notice, where the wheat was.
Has your vision recuperated?
It is.
That is awesome. Well, congratulations. And it's from dietary changes.
Absolutely. And putting the right stuff in, we have to supplement.
Wow, congratulations. Well, look, Candace, we are 30 seconds left on this show. I really appreciate your phone call. And thank you for listening to us and supporting us. It really means a lot. And we do need people out there. And thank you for all the work that you're doing and letting us know.
I love you, Lonnie. I love you, Lonnie.
Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us. Everybody, put your courage feet on. I know it takes me. I mean, it's hard to face these people at the NDRC, but I'm gonna. And let's take some action, save our planet. We have mass animal deaths, much more important than Brexit. And we will talk to you on Monday. And thank you for sharing and joining us. Put your courage feet on. Talk to you later.